Hello, everybody. So, hopefully, encoding overload. Consider turning down video settings or using a faster encoding preset. I'd like to get this figured out. Why my kind of encoder for live streaming is kind of garbage. Consider turning down video settings. Don't really know how to do that. So, let me just check this. Video settings. Oh, maybe I could do that. Okay, just a second. I'll be right back and see if I can improve this situation. Nah. Let's see how it goes today. I did already turn down something. All right, so today we're going to talk about Vishnu and Vishnu's Nakshatras. Let's see what we got here. Just pop this chat out in here so I can see it. And turn this down. So what I'm going to present to you is a little different than you commonly hear it. But just as I was telling you that Brahma has two nakshatras, Rohini and Abhijit. Shiva has, or you could actually say Brahma has three because you could count Chitra as well. So in other words, I'm taking the gods that are manifestations of these three gods and including them. So since Twashta is a manifestation of Brahma and Ka is a manifestation of Brahma, then Twashta's nakshatra Chitra and Ka's nakshatra Rohini can be both considered Brahma's nakshatras. So for Rudra, you got Ardra, and then you have Niriti, who's Rudra's manifestation, and then you have the two Bhadrapadas that are Rudra's avatar as a Naga. So that's how you can get four Rudra nakshatras, 2 or 3 if you count Abhijit Brahma nakshatras. Now for Vishnu, we're going to have 3, and they're 3 in a row. The main nakshatra is Shravana. And then on either side you have Uttarashada and Shravishta or Dhanishta. And what you'll learn in the course of this video and probably next week's video is why I consider these other two to be Vishnu nakshatras as well. But first, let's just talk about Shravana a bit, and let's just talk about Vishnu a bit. So, like the other two big gods, Shiva and Brahma, Vishnu is seen as super important in the later Vedic schools of thought. So, you would simply, if you don't know what I mean by later Vedic schools of thought, just go like 2 or 3 live streams back. Go to my channel page and go 2 or 3 live streams back where we started talking about the Hindu Trinity. And we talk about the difference between the initial Vedic outlook and the later Vedic outlook, or the primary and secondary, or elementary and secondary Vedic outlooks. So in the secondary, or the more developed Vedic outlook, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are in a special class. They're not just gods of various things in the world. They are the world. They are the substance that generates the world. So Vishnu specifically is extremely important in the later Vedic darshan, the later Vedic way of understanding the Vedas. Later means Upanishads and Puranas. In that school of thought, Vishnu is seen as the ultimate substance. The ultimate substance is consciousness. The thing which perceives everything else is the ultimate substance. And Vishnu is seen as the original consciousness. So there isn't really anything to go beyond that. There's nothing beyond Vishnu. in the earlier Vedic schools, or in other words, in the more elementary way of dealing with the Vedic texts, Vishnu is much less important because they don't really care about something abstract and philosophical and deep like consciousness. The elementary way of dealing with the world and with the Vedas is just to get things that you need and things that you want. So the elementary Vedic school is mostly about rituals and ceremonies to get various things like wealth, power, prestige. In that school, Vishnu is relegated to being the god of feet. This is very interesting. The life forms have senses. Every life form is basically senses, a collection of senses. Senses that come in and senses that go out. So the senses that go out, they include the feet. This is called the locomotive sense. Every living creature has some sort of a locomotive sense, whether it's a fin to push you through the water, or flagellum, or whether it's your slithery stomach for a snake, or whether it's 4 legs, 8 legs, 20 legs, 100 legs, or 2 legs, whatever. Every living entity has some kind of locomotive sense. And each one of these locomotive senses is deified. I mean, the whole universe is alive. And the whole universe is alive, basically. The whole universe is a manifestation of consciousness. So every important thing in the universe has some deity to it. Everything in the universe has some deity to it. There's things which are not that important have unimportant deities. The things which are important have more important deities. So the sense of locomotion has a deity. So every sense has a deity. The sense of locomotion has a deity, and it's Vishnu. Now, that's really interesting when you think about Shravana nakshatra, because Shravana nakshatra, what's the symbol? What's the primary symbol for it? Actually, if you are able to do sky gazing, which most people, even the supposed astrology fans, they don't do any sky gazing, but if you ever do any sky gazing and you actually have the wherewithal to know the Vedic sky maps, which aren't easy, to know, you'll find Shravana as 3 stars in a little zigzag, basically in a row, 3 stars in a row. And so what are those 3 stars? Those 3 stars are the main symbol. Right? That's the symbol of, what's this? This is so nice. Thank you, Catherine. The 3 stars are the symbol of this nakshatra. You know the symbol? Anybody know the symbol for Shravana? What are those 3 stars supposed to be? The 3 stars are supposed to be 3 footprints. Yeah, that's right, Livy. 3 footprints. So, you see, Vishnu is the god of what? The locomotive sense. It's the god of feet. And what's his star symbolized by? Feet, footprints. And what is the Nakshatra Sutra? What does the Nakshatra Sutra say is the prastat or objective of Shravana? To give the feet a place to walk, to create a panta or a path is the objective of Shravana. To set or discover or establish or get yourself on a path. And what's the means for that according to the sutra? The avastat. It's, God, what was the exact word? I don't remember the exact word, but it's inquiry. The Shravana Nakshatras uses inquiry to establish the right path to go. So that's what the listening part is. And the word Shravana. So somebody thought Shravana's symbol is an ear. A symbol, the ear can symbolize Shravana, but the actual constellation draws the picture of 3 footsteps. Why ear? Because Shravana tends to mean listening. Well, Shravana means a conversation or listening to, especially on the listening side of conversation, the ear side of conversation more than the mouth side. But what does the word actually mean? Shrav means to move. Shrav means to flow. And the reason why conversation is called Shravana is because ideas or consciousness is moving from one person to another through conversation. Isn't that cool? So if you think about it, there's a stream of consciousness going into this microphone, going over the internet, going up to God knows what satellites and everything, and coming down to your speakers and coming out into you. That's the Shravana. So Shravana means listening, but it also means movement. And that path also means the same thing. Establishing a connection, establishing a back and forth, a conversation, establishing a dialogue is an objective of Shravana Nakshatra. Because this nakshatra is called a Chala Nakshatra. There's 6 different types of nakshatras, and one of them is Chala. Shravana is Chala. Chala means moves. It's about movement. It's especially about the movement of ideas through words, or understanding how to move, how to get from A to B, how to get from one point to another. That's Vishnu, because Vishnu is the god of locomotion. Now, why is Vishnu the god of locomotion is really easy, and what is really interesting. And why is there such a huge difference between the Purva Mimamsa and the Uttara Mimamsa, the elementary or Vedic view and the later Vedic view? Why is there such a huge difference? The elementary view says he's the god of feet, and the other view says he's the ultimate being, consciousness itself. So there seems to be like a huge difference between the god of feet and the ultimate being. Well, it's actually very, very interesting how the two are different angles on one thing. Consciousness is the biggest container for everything. So the way that Vedic physics works is it thinks of evolutes or products as being contained within their mother, just like children they come out from their mother. So, for example, the concept is that solids evolved from liquids. So the concept is that liquids contain solids, because from liquids, solids evolved out, and then energies like radiance and fire basically contains liquids. It precipitates liquids out. The heat precipitates liquids out. And air contains fire. It's the friction in the air which generates the heat. So you go up and up with your Vedic physics to larger and larger elements. So space is the thing that contains all physical elements. But then space, and that's Varuna, actually. So Varuna is the space, and that's why it's called Varuna, because he encompasses everything. All tangible things are encompassed in Varuna. But Varuna is like a mini Vishnu, because he's the Vishnu only in the physical space. The whole of space is contained in the intellect and mind, because the intellect and the mind is the thing that makes sense out of the perception of space. It actually makes the perception of space. So all of space and so forth, all of space, water, air, earth, all that stuff is contained in mind. And then mind is contained in ego, which is identity, which is the subjective point of view that you have in observing reality. And then ego is contained in the Atma, the self, the consciousness, the conscious being. So And consciousness is not contained in anything else. Consciousness is the ultimate container for reality. Consciousness is the thing that makes reality reality. Reality is defined as something which is perceivable. It's actually real. You can experience it. So the experiencer, consciousness, is the thing which defines reality, the thing which is experienceable. So there's nothing that defines or holds consciousness. Consciousness is the ultimate envelope. So Vishnu is that Paramatma, the supreme consciousness, the original consciousness. Because of that, like Varuna is said to be everywhere. And if you think about Satyabhishak nakshatra, it's got 100 eyes. And Varuna's quality was that he knew everything because he was present at every physical location. He could see everything everywhere because he's the god of space, and space isn't everything. But space is not inside your mind. I mean, actually, that's backwards. Space is inside your mind, but mind is not inside space. Mind contains space. So Varuna is a bit limited, actually, in his omniscience. And omnipresence is not omnipresent in your emotions. He's only omnipresent in your actions and your form. But Vishnu is omnipresent everywhere. Because Vishnu is consciousness, and everything is manifest by consciousness. So consciousness is in everything. Everything is consciousness. So this is why Vishnu is said to be everywhere. That's the meaning of the word Vishnu. The literal meaning of the word Vishnu, it has to do with the word Vishva, which means everything. But Vishnu means the essence of everything. But since it's the essence of everything, it's the thing that's everywhere. Because Vishnu is everywhere, he's thought of as the god of locomotion, going at any point that you want to go to, Vishnu is there. So his travel is instantaneous. He's got instantaneous travel to any location because all the locations are within him. So this is why Vishnu is considered the god of locomotion. If you just want some simple thing from Vishnu, it's a practical thing from Vishnu, the practical thing that you get from Vishnu is the ability to go someplace really fast. Shravana nakshatra wants to go someplace, but it's connected very much with Dhanishta, Shravishta, the next nakshatra. The next nakshatra establishes the objective for the path. Like what do you want? What's at the end of the path? So these two are a pair, really important pair. But Shravana really wants to go somewhere, wants to find out about things. That's why it's the listening nakshatra. It's trying to find out about things. What is out there? What are the paths available? How do you walk on this path? How do you walk on that path? What are the directions? So that's an important thing to know about Shravana nakshatra. It may not be well known that Shravana nakshatra is good for dancing, for example, because it's a moving nakshatra and is made of footsteps, signified by footsteps. Vishnu is good with dance, motion. It's good for transportation, transporting things, moving around. It's good for teachers and students, people who have to explain things. We'll have to listen to this student to understand their questions, to explain things. And people that are trying to learn things have to listen. So there has to be a path established between teacher and student. All right, so now let's get to the tales of the nakshatras, right? We really like these stories. So let me tell you a story about Vishnu with the 3 feet. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah. Right. Any questions about Vishnu or any of these things that we looked at so far? Next, we're going to talk about a specific story about Shravana's symbolism of 3 feet and how Vishnu is a god especially connected with feet and stepping, moving forward. I'm just checking in and see if you guys have any questions about Vishnu. All the people who love travel are connected to Vishnu Tattva. Yeah, Vishnu is all about locomotion. Everybody's connected to Vishnu Tattva, but the concept of travel is Vishnu's domain. Can malefics and Shravana cause hearing loss or tinnitus? Yeah. Isn't Nakshatras good with dance? Well, they're all good with dance because they all are very well educated and have great self-control. Any great being is going to be good at dance. But yeah, it's like that. Does Vishnu rule a planet? None of the big gods rule planets. But planets are associated to gods, and a lot of times planets have very similar qualities to certain gods. For example, Saturn has similar qualities with Rudra, and Jupiter has similar qualities with Vishnu. John V is asking me a question that's all sidereal. Always, John V, you always do that. Why can you explain why all the Vishnu nakshatra fall in Capricorn zodiac sign? No, because they don't necessarily fall in Capricorn zodiac sign. In the ancient times, they were in Sagittarius. In modern times, they're spanning Capricorn and Aquarius. Oh, let's see. Catherine makes an interesting point. She thought that Vishnu is the grahas. This is just actually okay. This is actually quite interesting. One thing you have to understand is horoscopic astrology, which is the astrology that we do most of the time, which means having an ascendant and using 9 planets and houses and stuff like that. Was not popular in Vedic culture. Vedic culture used astrology to time events, to determine the correct time to do different events. That's how Vedic culture used astrology. Later on, it started to use astrology the way that the Greeks and the Mesopotamians were using it, which was to tell about individual people and understand individual people through their, and it's totally valid. It doesn't mean that it's not valid just because it wasn't the way Vedic culture used it. It's just the point is that the books in Indian culture, which are about horoscopic astrology, they come much later than Vedic Jyotish. And what they try to do is they try to connect themselves to Vedic concepts, to legitimize themselves and give themselves like a connection to the indigenous culture. So usually you'll find in Sanskrit astrology books that there's an opening chapter or an opening statement or two which tries to frame the knowledge or the subject in truly Vedic concepts. So for example, one of the ways that they do that is they say that they refer the signs to the Kala Purush, to the universal form. And, like they'll start off by, like Paladipika just starts off by saying the head of the Kala Purush, the cosmic being, is Aries. The face is Taurus. The shoulder area is Gemini, etc. And then they'll also say that the planets, because the universe is Vishnu, they'll say that the planets therefore are Vishnu. It's a reasonable statement. And then they'll give some correlation to specific Vishnu avatars. So it is interesting how they correlate the Vishnu avatars. Some of the important ones are that Krishna. So in other words, they're looking at the planets and they're saying they're all different avatars of Vishnu. And they say that Krishna is the moon is like Krishna, the sun is like Rama. It's actually very helpful. If you know a lot about Vishnu avatars, then this paradigm of correlating planets to avatars is very helpful for you to understand what these planets are like, what they are symbolically like, what they represent. Just like nowadays, there's like a TV show, Breaking Bad, and somebody can write an article saying, these are the different characters in Breaking Bad and what zodiac signs they are or what planets they are. In one sense, it's kind of total fluff, but in another sense, it's really cool because it helps you understand the planets. So they say, the sun is like Rama, the moon is like Krishna, Mercury is like Buddha, Mars is like Nrsimha. What are the other ones? Jupiter is like Vamana, and Saturn. Who's Saturn like? Kurma, the turtle. I'm not so sure. Rahu and Ketu, I forget who they correlate them to. So anyway, some people will say that all the 9 planets are Vishnu because everything is Vishnu. That's a reasonable thing. Other people will say no. Venus is Shukracharya. Sun is Surya. Moon is Chandra. Jupiter's Brihaspati. They'll have different ways of looking at it. Okay. Here's a question. Which avatar is Jupiter? Jupiter is Vamana, who we're going to talk about next. We're going to tell the Vamana story. It's a really good story. Let's see. Even when Vishnu becomes the prime god in later Vedic, he's still one of the sons of Aditi, of course. See, it's not that... Don't think of it like Vishnu becomes a prime god in later Vedic thought. It's not like his historical development, although some scholastic people will try to make you think that way. But there's just 2 different ways of approaching the Vedas. One is elementary and one is more evolved. In the elementary way, it's the same Vishnu, but if you look at Vishnu in an elementary way, what are you going to get from Vishnu? Nothing much, because he's about stuff that's totally beyond what you're interested in. The only thing that you're going to get from Vishnu is like that he's everywhere, so you can get anywhere you want through Vishnu. That's the elementary approach. The more developed approach is, wow, Vishnu is exactly what I want. He's the essence of everything that I could want. So he's always going to be a son. Now, is he a son of Aditi? You'll see how in the story how he becomes a son of Aditi. You'll see that in this next story about Vamana. Varaha is Rahu. Very interesting statement from Shashi Kiran. Shravana people are like Bali, both good and bad. But we're going to tell the story about Bali, very interesting story. Ketu is Matsya. Mohini is a good thing for Venus, but most of the time they say that Venus is Parshuram, which is a very real eye-opener about Parshuram and Venus. Parshuram is the Brahmana who killed every warrior. He killed every single warrior alive 21 times. So in other words, they regenerated their dynasties 21 times and he wiped them out because he was so fed up with warriors. And that's the Vishnu avatar that's associated with Venus, the peace lover. Very interesting. But it is also, it's actually stupid for us to think, no, it's this or that. Because the planets are the planets. They're not Parshuram, they're not Brihaspati or whatever. But we can refer them, they have the qualities of, or they are like these beings. And it helps you understand what they signify symbolically. So it's fine if somebody says, no, Venus is really like Mohini. That's really accurate. You can learn a lot from that. That's very true. If somebody says Venus is like Parshuram, that's really cool. You learn a lot about both Parshuram and Venus, etc. All right, let's get on to this Levi wants to know if Yahweh is equivalent to Vishnu. Not at all. Yahweh is equivalent to Brahma. Because Brahma is the creator, and also Brahma is Prajapati. And the original Yahweh was Prajapati. That's why they perform circumcision. Because they keep the males stimulated. Because it's the original Yahweh is fertility. Male fertility. It's Prajapati, the creator of the male fertility. But the way that they've dealt with Yahweh in Jewish tradition and Christian tradition, it's like they're conglomerating a concept of Brahma with a concept of Indra. To be really honest, it's like a combined sense of Indra and Brahma in one person. I think because they moved Yahweh from the fertility god to the ultimate god. So they moved him from like a Ka or Prajapati to an Indra position. All right. Let's look at this story. This story is really great. So now I'm going to tell you the story about Trivikram. Trivikram. Tri means three. Krama means to do something or to move. V is a special prefix, makes things more special. So 3 special movements, 3 special steps. That's what the word Trivikram means. It's a name for Vamana. Vamana means dwarf. Now it's very interesting that the dwarf is associated to Jupiter, because you can see what happens when he becomes Trivikrama. So let's see. This is a very, very, very interesting story. After suffering defeat, so this is, I'm going to read you from my book now. What book? This one. Nakshatra, The Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology. Get it on Amazon.com. So where are we? After suffering defeat as a result of losing the nectar of immortality, the Asura king Bali sought help from scholars and became a dedicated disciple of a mystic scholar named Shukra. Okay, so go to your story book that you got a lot of tales now, if you've been following this Tales of the Nakshatra gods. So go back to reference where Indra gets help from the various gods to try to so that he can be as powerful as Varuna, and he gets Amrita or Soma from Chandra. As a result of him getting Soma, he became undefeatable. That's why it's called Amrita. You couldn't be killed. Amrityu means immortal. So, but as a result of getting the Amrita, now also he got it from churning the ocean of milk, which is Chandra's pot. So, and the demons, the Asuras and the Suras were supposed to be cooperating for it, but there's where Mohini comes in, and Rahu and Ketu get created in this whole affair as well, and the demons wind up with no Soma, and the gods get it all and they run away. And then as a result of that, the gods start kicking butt. They got this power of immortality, so they just start wiping out the Asuras. So the king of the Asuras, he says, I don't know what to do. I better go check in with the smart people. So he goes to the Brahmanas, or the scholars. And the foremost scholar that he had access to is named Shukra. Shukra is famous in astrology because he's the being associated most commonly with Venus. Because Venus is a scholar. Venus is refined. Venus is not some wild sense gratification thing. Venus is the arts, refinement, culture. So Bali, he knows that smart people can help. So he goes and he becomes very dedicated to serving Shukra and trying to learn from Shukra. Shukra is very pleased. Look at this guy. He's the king of Asuras. Asuras are proud of their power. Their superpower. That's what the word Asura means. They have more than enough power. Too much power. And he's the king of the Asuras, and he's acting so humble like a student. This guy has really got great character. So Shukra decided that all the scholars should help Bali. So they gave him some blessings. The scholar, the wizards, they knew how to do magic. So they give Bali some magic blessings. And then Shukra also specifically says, look, the gods have soma, so you can't kill them. You kill them and they just come back to life. But I can do the same thing. I know I know medical science too. So if I promise you that when the Asuras die, I'll bring you back to life. This is part of the reason why Shukra is connected to Venus. And it's because Venus signifies reincarnation. Because of the cycle that she does with a 9-month cycle, which is the same as a human gestation, was 9 months and then disappears and dies. Gets kind of swallowed by the sun, disappears, symbolically dies, and then comes up reborn, but in a totally different sky, reborn in a different world, reborn in the daytime sky, in the morning sky, lives there for 9 months, dies again, gets reborn in the nighttime sky. So Venus is symbolic of reincarnation. And Shukra is the master of resurrecting dead soldiers, dead things. So this is one reason why Shukra is connected with Venus. So Shukra said, look, the gods have this immortality juice. That's not fair that they have it and you don't. So I'm gonna make the playing field even. I'm gonna give you my power of immortality. Anybody dies in your army, I'll get there and I'll bring him back to life. So guess what? Now that Indra doesn't have any unfair advantage over the Asuras in Bali, Bali starts marching on Swarga, on paradise. Indra sees this incredibly confident Bali with this huge army coming, and he goes to his scholar, he goes to his Brahmana, he goes to Brihaspati, and he says, got any advice? What's the strategy, boss? And Brihaspati says, this is the battle, this foe is beyond you all, fly you fools. Brihaspati says, you can't defeat Bali. He's gonna kick your butt. He's gonna just walk all over you guys now. So if the smartest thing you can do is run. So that's what Brihaspati told Indra, the smartest thing you can all do is evacuate, get the hell out of this city, get out of paradise. Just let him have it. Better you let them have it and you get a chance in the future to take it back than you die trying to defend it. So Indra and all the gods, they ran to the hills. They ran out of paradise. So Bali and the Asuras, they just walk into paradise and they take it over. So he just starts sitting on Indra's throne, and he's now, finally, the Asuras have control over Swarga. So in a sense, finally they got their revenge by Bali, through Bali, the great Asura king Bali. However, the gods weren't dead. They just got evicted. Now Aditi, the divine mother of the gods, she wasn't happy. She wasn't happy to see her children living in the trees. So she decided that she will pray to Vishnu. This is what you always see with, it's either Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva. And it's usually only the gods because the Asuras are too proud of their own power. But sometimes it's also the Asuras. They go, when they can't figure out what to do, they go to Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva and ask for help. So Aditi went to Vishnu and said, I need you to become a god. I need you to become my child, so that so that you become brothers to these gods, to the Adityas, to Indra, and save them. The nature of Vishnu, and this is important to all of Vishnu's nakshatras, and somebody mentioned it, somebody's got their finger close to the pulse of this. Somebody in the chat said that Shravana is good and bad. It's good and bad people. The thing is, Shravana and Vishnu nakshatras are very impartial. And you'll find this in the Varuna nakshatra as well, Satyabhishak. This whole strand of area here around Shravana and the nakshatras around there, it's a very impartial area of the sky. They don't play favorites. Whoever comes to Vishnu, Vishnu will help them according to what they deserve. It doesn't matter if you wear a black hat or a white hat. If you're coming to Vishnu and asking for help, he'll give you what he can. So Vishnu agreed. Okay, you asked me for help, I'll help you. So he became her child. So he's counted as the youngest child of Aditi, because he was born after all these other gods. And that's why Vishnu is called Aditya. That's one of the reasons why Vishnu is called Aditya, son of Aditi. That's one of the reasons why he's called Indranuja, the younger brother of Indra, because he became a child of Aditi. Now, when he was born, I guess either he grew up immediately or whatever, after waiting some time, he had a conversation with his mother. And so what he said was, look, she said, look, you're supposed to save everybody. They're still living in the forest. So Vishnu said, well, we can't attack Bali. And we can't attack the Asuras because they're stronger than us. And they have the upper hand. They're controlling Swarga. So if we just try to go in there and fight them, we'll be dead. So we need to do it in a smart way. And this is also the approach of Shravana. The approach of Shravana is that it doesn't try to come at the thing bluntly and direct. It tries to find the best path. It tries to find a strategy, the best way to go about doing something. And so what Vamana said, that's another nickname of him, is because he was born very small. He stayed very small. He didn't grow very tall. He was stayed like a baby. Not baby, but like a boy. So they called him dwarf, Vamana. What he said was, the guy's got a weakness. Bali has a weakness. His strength is his weakness. This is another thing. See, you're touching on that point of Shravana, is that it's very impartial and it's a very balance between good and bad and strength and weakness. The strength is the weakness. The weakness is the strength. Vamana says to Aditi, this guy's strength is his dedication to Brahmanas, right? His strength is how much he respects scholars. So the scholars empowered him. Now he can't be beat. But that strength is also his weakness, because he's reliant on the scholars. So he said, I'll become a scholar. So Vamana, being Vishnu is the source of all the Vedas. So he manifests knowledge of all the Vedas, all kinds of sciences, everything. He manifests knowledge of it. And then he goes out, let's say, to meet Bali. So he just strolls peacefully into Bali's court because he's a scholar. And he's the characteristic of Vamana, he doesn't dress like a god or anything. He dresses like a brahmana. So he just wears a chadar and like a kopan and like a little, just cloth, simple cloth, just tied with a knot. He doesn't have fancy sewn clothes or anything like that. He carries a little umbrella because he's always walking outside, carries a little stick because that's what you do when you're outside all the time. You keep a stick, keeps dogs away or whatever. So he's got all the accoutrement of a Brahmana. He is a Brahmana. He's the speaker of the Veda. He knows the Veda. So he's got no reason to come in with any bodyguards or anything. He just walks into Swarga and walks into the palace, walks up to Bali. And Bali says, welcome. It's a great day. Look at you. I can see the knowledge in you. You're glowing. You're so bright. I can see that you know so much. I'm so lucky that such a scholar has come to me. And so as the custom in Vedic culture is, people who have money are either going to be Vaishyas or Kshatriyas. They're either going to be business people or managers, like government people. The custom in that culture was the people that have money take care of the people who don't have money. And there's two kinds of people that usually don't have money. One's the people that aren't really smart enough to have money, and the people that are too smart to have money. People that aren't really smart enough are called Shudras. They just do work. And the people that have money are supposed to pay them fairly. And then the people that are too smart to have money, they do things that aren't money-oriented. They do things that are knowledge-oriented. But because that knowledge is so important to society, the rest of the society, people that has money, supports them, gives them food, gives them places to live, doesn't charge them taxes, stuff like that. So when Bali came into Vamana's court, Vamana, the first thing he said is, let me give you charity. Let me give you something. And he's a bit proud, so he says, ask me for anything. Ask me for anything. Anything you want, I'll give you. So Vamana said, okay, can you give me a little land? Sure, definitely. How much land do you want? I just want 3 paces. Can I just have 3 paces of land? So Bali said, come on, 3 paces? What are you going to grow? You can't even build an outhouse on 3 paces of land. 3 paces? I am Bali. I defeated Indra. I rule the 3 planes. I rule the 3 worlds. You're going to ask me just for 3 paces, 3 strides? Come on, ask me for more. It would be embarrassing for me to just give you 3 paces of land. So then Vamana said, my dear king, why should I ask for more than 3 paces of land? 3 paces of land is all I need. I just need a place to sit. And he has a famous quote here. Vamana says, if you're not happy with 3 paces of land, then you won't be happy with the 3 worlds either. You should know this. So I don't want any more than 3 paces of land. So that really impressed Bali Maharaj. Wow. This is a real scholar that doesn't just have the knowledge in his head, but he's got it in his heart. He's living the stuff. So he got really excited. All right, I'm going to give you 3 paces of land. I'm so glad that I can give you 3 paces of land. And he starts making the vow. I promise that you have such and such. Well, meanwhile, Shukra comes running over. And he runs up to Bali and he reaches for his ear and he says, hey, this is crazy. Who is this guy? We've never seen this guy before. What a weird request. You know, this happens to us all the time. Or this happens to you guys all the time. That somebody cheats you of your victory. It's like, this has got to be something suspicious about this. This is probably Vishnu or Shiva or somebody in disguise. And this is a scheme. So don't do this. Say no. And Bali, this is a famous situation which is used in the Vedas to illustrate that you shouldn't have blind faith in a guru. And that you should be able to recognize if a guru is telling you something wrong. If the guru is speaking against something that is in the Veda, then the guru should be not followed. This is so important for modern Indian culture and modern Vedic people. That just because you're older, somebody is doing it this way, or just because your guru's guru or your teacher said to do it that way, doesn't mean that it's right. You have to use the Vedic statements as the determinant for what's right and wrong. So what Bali said is, look, I'm a king. He's a scholar. It's my Vedic dharma to support him and take care of him. So I don't care if he's trying to cheat me, if he's actually Vishnu or somebody else trying to cheat me. I can't be cheated by doing my duty. So if he's here to take my kingdom and kick me out of paradise, then let him kick me out of paradise. And he's a scholar. So basically he told Shukra to shut up. And then the way that you do this, the way that you do contracts, the way that they did contracts in Vedic times was not like signing names on paper, but they would do different symbols. So you would consecrate something, or you would make a vow or a statement in front of some kind of a sacred thing. So it involves, you have to pour water on your hands to make yourself clean. And then you have to invoke something like a fire or something, and then you have to make a promise. Or a god, or something. You evoke some god, and then you make a promise. So Bali reached for the water pot, and Shukra went in there. Shukra changed into a bug and climbed in a fly and flew into the water pot to try to block the water so Bali couldn't wash his hands. And then Bali took some grass and to clean out the thing, and while he was cleaning it out, he poked Shukra's eye. So Shukra has only one eye now. So Bali was really intent on following his dharma as a king to take care of a scholar, as a superior person to take care of a junior person, as a person who has made a promise to fulfill the promise. Bali's promise was, ask me for some charity, I'll give you anything. So you'll see this again and again, like in Mahabharata, Bhishma is killing himself. He's ruining everything, you might think, just so that he doesn't break a promise. He's letting all kinds of crazy stuff have to happen just so that he doesn't break a promise. That's how serious it is to these people to keep their promises. So Bali finally gets Shukra out of the water pot, washes his hands, invokes the fire or whatever he invoked, and said, I give you 3 steps of land. Take the land. Wherever you step is yours. So as soon as Bali made that promise, now you'll see why Vamana is the deity for Jupiter. Because Jupiter's basic nature, the basic symbolic nature is a plus sign for Jupiter. The basic symbolic nature for Saturn is a minus sign. The basic symbolic nature of Jupiter is to increase things, and Saturn decreases things. So why Vamana, the dwarf, is the symbol for Jupiter is because of what happens next in the story. As soon as Bali made his promise, and all of a sudden Vamana grew to incredibly huge size and took a stride which reached all the way from Bali's palace, which was in the lowest of the Asura's paradises, reached all the way from his palace all the way up to the earth plane. And then his second step reached all the way from the earth plane all the way up to the top of Swarga, past Swarga, and kicked the shell of the universe. So he stepped from one edge of the universe's shell into the middle, and then to the edge, to the outer edge, and kicked a hole in the shell of the universe so that the Karnodaka, the ocean of causality, began to leak into the universe. And that water leaking into the universe is another interesting story, which it involves Shiva. Shiva has to come and protect the earth from the massive weight of this water falling out of the sky. So he catches it on his head, and then it drips off his head onto the earth, onto the mountains, and becomes the Ganges. So the Ganges is sacred because it has come from Vishnu's foot. Vishnu's foot poked a hole, and then the water came washing over Vishnu's foot, and then went onto Shiva's head. and then comes down into the mountains and then comes down to earth. So there's a lot of things involved in this story. So then Vamana looks down, comes back maybe into a form that can talk to Bali and says, hey, you promised me 3 steps. Are you going to fulfill your promise or what? I took 2 steps and everything is gone. Everything is mine already with 2 steps. Then Bali was in such a mood of devotion. Now you may not know this, but Bali is related to Prahlad. Anyway, Bali was in such a mood, who is another example of a great Vishnu devotee amongst the Asuras. Bali was in such a mood of awe that this is Vishnu. I made a promise to Vishnu and I'm actually giving something to Vishnu. This is amazing. So Bali said to him, you haven't claimed me. You stepped all over the universe, but you didn't claim me. So there's one space left in the universe for you to step on, and it's my head. Take me. So Vishnu was also thrilled because it's the nature of Vishnu is Uttama Shlok. Vishnu loves love. That's Vishnu's weakness, is that he loves love. And so, knowing Bali's character, he glorified Bali by enacting this event that would give the world a chance to see how incredibly noble Bali is. And to make a point, it makes such a point that Bali is an Asura. But his quality is so good. His heart is so good. So Vamana then actually said, look, I took paradise from you, and that's pretty bad. I cheated you. But so this is also the nature of Vishnu. And it's also this, you're putting your finger on Shravana when you say it's very difficult to know if Shravana is like a good nakshatra or a bad nakshatra. Does it make people do good things or bad things? It makes people do things which are good and bad. It's mixing the character. It's just trying to get from point A to point B and trying to figure out the most expeditious way to get from point A to point B. And some people may think that step that goes to point A and point B is bad, but Shravana takes it anyway. And some people may think that it's good. Shravana takes it anyway, and it's mixing good and bad. So he says, look, I cheated you of paradise, really, honestly, so that was bad, but I'm going to give it back to you. In the future, you're going to be Indra. I'm going to make you the king of the gods. And meanwhile, I'm going to arrest you, but I'm going to put you under a really special house arrest. I set aside a whole realm for you called Sutala. And in this realm, you won't age. So you will literally become Indra. You're not going to have to die and then become Indra in some other life or something. You're going to go and wait in Sutala. You're not going to get tired there. You're not going to be sad there. It's an amazing spot that I've set aside for you. Because you're awesome. Because you showed me so much nobility and so much dedication that I'll show the same to you. And I like you so much that I'm going to stay there with you. I'm going to stay with you in Sutala until it's your turn to be Indra. And if any of these gods try to attack you or anything because they know that in the future you're going to become Indra, I'll kill them. I'll protect you from them. So you can see how Vishnu does his things. Right? First of all, you can see how indebted Vishnu is. So this is the key to dealing with Shravana people, is to do something nice for them. They will be very indebted to any help. Another symbol of Shravana or another meaning of Shravana is old or limping. And 3 steps because it needs some help from somebody else is another reason why there's 3, not 2 steps. There's another person or something they're helping. There's a crutch is making the 3rd step. So Shravana people, they look for help. They need help. They need some direction. If you give some help, they'll be dedicated to you. The same way that Vishnu gets dedicated to anybody that does something nice for him. So that's one interesting thing about Shravana. It's very indebted. It's fair. It's very fair. It, like Vishnu here, he gave paradise back to the gods because paradise belongs to the gods. They need to administer the universe. So he gave paradise back to the gods, but he also gave paradise to the asuras because he's making the asura is going to become Indra after this Indra dies. So he gave Bali what he deserved. He manages to find a way to give everybody what they deserve. So he's very fair, but sometimes does things through very tricky, does the fair things in very tricky ways. Like pretending to be small and then all of a sudden being huge. All right. So that tells you a bit about Shravana. It's also going to tell you, it's also going to have some impact on how you should understand Shravishta or Dhanishta and Uttarashada. And even the 4th nakshatra was Shatabhishak. They share the quality of impartiality, fairness, wanting to give each person what they deserve, not always the most straightforward in the way that they accomplish and do things, but their ideal or objective is fairness. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed that story. It's one of my favorite stories. Let's see, what's this? Why can't Vishnu let the Devas and Asuras take turns living in paradise? Because actually the Asuras can't rule. They can't. They do have a problem. The Asuras do have a problem. The problem is that they're too powerful, so they don't want to really cooperate or check with another leader. The thing about the gods is they're a little bit weaker than the Asuras, so they frequently like to check with Vishnu and Brahma. And that makes them more qualified to run the thing. So basically, what Sachi Kiran said, it's not that the Asuras don't follow Dharma. They do follow their Dharma, but they don't follow it as compliantly. Is Venus Deva or Devi? Well, Venus is a female symbol. Venus is a female planet. So it's a female planet. Sometimes it's connected with male figures because the qualities of these males illustrate something about Venus, like Shukra, the reincarnation factor. Venus isn't a Devi or a Deva. Venus is a planet. Shukra is a male. If Venus is a little like Vishnu, if Varuna is a little like Vishnu and a god of space, then what would the Varuna Mitra duo as a single body signify? Why Varuna and Mitra are always together? Mitra is the most partnery of all the Adityas. Is the god of love. Mitra is the god of love. So it would be your first choice for somebody to bond with, right? So Varuna gets first choice because he's the oldest. I don't know. There might be something more to it. Let's think about it. Shukra is a Brahmana. He's a guy. He's a male Brahmana. Shakti wants to know how you get a heads up before I do this. If you're not here live, it's not a big deal. You can just watch the recording. If you just it's always going to be on this day. It's not always at the same time because it just depends on my schedule. What else we have here? Yeah, Shravana and Uttarashada, they like to be fair and impartial. Righteous maybe not the best word, because they will do things that don't seem righteous sometimes, but are very fair. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. We'll stop now. Arya says Saturn is mentioned to be the most powerful god. Only people that don't know what they're talking about talk about Saturn as being the most powerful god, or people that are just talking in a very limited context about planets. Saturn's not the most powerful god. Saturn is Saturn. Saturn's the slowest moving planet. So it's got Saturn's quality is endurance, perseverance, tenacity. So Saturn is the most difficult force to stop. Okay. It doesn't make Saturn the most powerful god. It's a total different thing. Like, it's people not really knowing what they're talking about. Somebody wanted to know the equivalent of Vishnu in Christianity. There is no equivalent. Christianity doesn't talk about philosophical things so much. But there is if you abstract if you abstract Vishnu as Bhagavan, Christianity has a concept of a father, a son, and a spirit, which is vaguely reminiscent of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Bhagavan is Vishnu. Don't try to get an equivalent to Vishnu in Christianity, because Christianity doesn't really go into that. Christianity is more about social affairs. All right, guys. Knowledge, devotion, and detachment. Please tell me which planets relate to these. Knowledge is mostly Jupiter. Devotion is mostly Venus. And detachment is Saturn. Yuyi, nice to see you. All right. K2 is not really a planet. K2 is hyper detached as well. Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks, everybody. Oh, does Saturn have anything to... Sorry, guys. Does Saturn have anything to do with the 6-pointed star? No, Saturn is a 7-pointed star. Venus is the 6-pointed star. Jupiter is the 5-pointed star. Then for Mercury, it's just a square, and Mars is a triangle. All right, guys. Venus is 6. It's let's see, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Venus is 6. And the thing of Venus is, it's 6 is a breakdown of 3 and 3. So it's 2 triangles. Because Venus is a pair with Mars, their shapes have to match like that. The number 8 is not really associated with Shani. It's Rahu. The number 7 is associated to Shani. If you try to draw a 7-pointed star, you'll see why it's Shani. It's very difficult to draw, and it's got a very strange symmetry to it. It's almost like asymmetrical. All right, guys. See you all soon, definitely next week.